When Prince Harry's plane touched down in the UK recently, whispers began before it even landed. But this wasn't about royal reunions or hopeful reconciliations. No, it was about the wild card, Archie and Lily, his children. These two, always shrouded in secrecy, have sparked questions and controversy from day one. Their connection to the crown has never been straightforward. From the beginning, their birth stories were veiled in mystery, secretive hospital stays, unclear documentation, and public doubts about how the pregnancies were handled. For a family obsessed with lineage and tradition, this was a chapter that never really closed. And now, Harry arrives, not just as a visitor, but as a man with a bold demand. His children should be welcomed with full royal treatment, not just a casual stop-by. It was as if he'd never left, as if the Megxit fallout was nothing but a distant memory. There was no, "Please, may we visit for a quick cup of tea?" Instead, it was a strategic, calculated move, as though Harry expected the monarchy to pick up right where it left off with him. The problem: King Charles wasn't fooled for a second. Harry's request was clear. He wanted his children treated like any other royal grandchild. But when the moment of truth arrived, King Charles slammed the door shut. No exceptions, no family reunions, not even for his grandchildren. And that no wasn't just a personal rejection. It was a message, a declaration from the heart of the monarchy. The message couldn't be any clearer. The crown doesn't bend to personal demands. Blood may be thick, but the crown is thicker. What Harry failed to grasp was that the monarchy doesn't operate on personal whims or feelings. It's a fortress, built on centuries of protocol, tradition, and public duty. And for Charles, this wasn't about his son's feelings. It was about protecting the institution. A royal family doesn't just allow someone to waltz back in after burning bridges, demanding royal privileges without paying the price for the choices they made. This was Harry's power play, and Charles saw it for what it was, a man trying to re-enter a world he'd once rejected. The door stayed locked. The palace didn't open its gates, not even for family. And Harry, he had no choice but to face the cold truth. As the dust settled from Harry's failed attempt at royal reintegration, the questions started to pile up. Why was he so insistent on bringing Archie and Lily back to the UK? Why now, of all times? Some legal experts are raising their eyebrows, suggesting this might not have been just about a casual family visit. There's a theory floating around that this could be part of a much larger custody chess match. Think about it. If Harry and Meghan's relationship continues to sour, and with the way things have been playing out, a custody battle over their children doesn't seem so far-fetched. If that's the case, Harry might be positioning himself to establish the UK as a legitimate base for Archie and Lily, making it harder for Meghan to keep them in the States. By bringing the kids to the UK and pushing for royal recognition, he could be laying the groundwork for what he hopes will be a stronger case in a potential legal fight. The more ties they have to the UK, the more complicated things get if Meghan ever challenges him on where the children should live. And here's the twist. Meghan was nowhere to be seen. No presence at the palace, no public statements, and no mention of her in the headlines. Her silence has been deafening. Was it a strategic move to avoid the fallout of Harry's power play, or was she simply staying out of the limelight, calculating her next Hollywood move? Whatever her reasoning, it's clear she wasn't about to step into the crossfire of Harry's gamble. This one was his to take. The man once celebrated as the People's Prince has now become a man knocking on a door that refuses to open. His grand entrance into the UK, accompanied by his children, wasn't just a failed visit. It was a failed power play. And it exposed something even more brutal. Harry has lost far more than just his royal status. He's lost credibility, control, and any real influence within the royal family. Once, Harry was beloved for his genuine persona and his charitable work. But now, he's left standing at the gates of Buckingham Palace, desperately trying to claw his way back into a family and an institution he once walked away from. And let's face it, his attempt to re-enter, with all the noise and media attention, isn't just a return to a familiar place. It's a desperate grasp at relevance. For someone who claimed to have left the royal life for freedom and peace, his actions now seem to scream the opposite. What Harry really misses isn't just the public adoration, it's the structure, the status, and the spotlight that only the monarchy could provide. The irony is undeniable. The prince who once spoke of breaking free from royal constraints now seems to be yearning for exactly that which he rejected. But the monarchy doesn't bend, and Harry is learning the hard way that doors locked once aren't easily opened again. Just when it seemed things couldn't get any more tangled, Harry threw another bombshell into the mix, a demand for full security protection at the taxpayers' expense. After his failed legal battle with the Home Office over his security concerns, Harry now insisted that King Charles foot the bill to keep him and his children safe in the UK. The audacity was staggering. Not only had he walked away from royal life, but now, after publicly questioning his safety, he expected the crown to reinstate the very protection he had renounced. The demand wasn't just surprising, it felt deeply entitled. Harry, the same man who criticized the monarchy and chose to live outside its boundaries, was now asking for the perks he once rejected. This move exposed a deeper truth. Harry hasn't fully accepted the consequences of his own choices. It was as though he expected the crown to welcome him back, to reinstate his privileges, while he continued to play by his own rules. The public, once sympathetic to the couple's quest for freedom, is no longer buying it. The fairy tale of the brave rebels is fading fast. Netflix deals are stalling, their media presence is slipping, and the royal family has long moved on. While Harry struggles to reclaim what he once had, the world is watching with a mix of disbelief and indifference. And the royal family, not a word of support, no gestures, no softening. The palace has drawn its line in the sand. As Harry's attempts to re-enter the royal fold were met with resistance, the silence from the royal family spoke louder than any statement could. Not a single word of support from William, Kate, or even Camilla. There were no public gestures of reconciliation, no briefings, no leaked comments. It was as if the entire family had collectively turned their backs on Harry's request, sending an unmistakable message. This is over. The door to the palace, once open for royal members, had been locked tight, and Harry wasn't welcome anymore. This silence was more than just passive indifference. It was a calculated, deliberate move. The monarchy had made its decision, and it was final. Harry's presence in the UK, his demands for royal treatment, and his failed power play had only served to highlight just how much he had alienated the very family he once belonged to. The lack of any gesture from William or Kate spoke volumes about where the royal family stands. There would be no reunion, no hand extended in forgiveness. The monarchy was sending a clear message. Harry may still be a prince by title, but his place within the family was no longer assured. What was even more telling was how the palace handled the situation with complete discretion. No leaks, no media strategies to spin the story. The monarchy wasn't playing the same game as Harry. They weren't interested in his narrative, they were focused on their own. And in doing so, they sealed the fate of any potential royal reconciliation. For Harry, this was the final blow. The royal family wasn't just ignoring him, they were actively shutting him out. What was meant to be a simple family visit quickly turned into one of the most publicized failed power plays in recent royal history. Harry's attempt to return to the fold wasn't just about reconnecting with family. It was a calculated move to reclaim a place in the royal narrative, but instead of warmth and reunion, it was met with cold rejection from the palace, making his gamble painfully clear. The monarchy doesn't operate like a family reunion or a cozy get-together. It's a tightly controlled institution built on centuries of tradition and protocol. Harry, who once prided himself on breaking royal norms, now found himself at odds with those same traditions he had so casually dismissed. His arrival wasn't seen as a symbolic return, but as an assertion of power, a demand for the royal privileges he had long since cast aside. But that demand, which might have once seemed plausible, now felt out of touch. The monarchy had moved on, and Harry's return was no longer a narrative they wanted to entertain. The rejection from Charles wasn't just a personal slight, it was a stark reminder that Harry's break from royal life had real consequences. He could no longer rely on the institution he had walked away from, and the more he knocked, the more he exposed just how isolated he had become, not just from his family, but from the world he once knew. The monarchy may have been built on tradition, but it was Harry's choices that had built the walls around him. As the royal doors closed firmly behind Harry, the true stakes of his failed visit began to surface. What seemed like a family visit may have been something far more calculated, a move in a much larger battle. This wasn't just about Harry trying to reclaim a relationship with his family, it was about securing his children's legacy, their place in a royal lineage that now seemed increasingly distant. Legal experts have started to raise serious questions. Was this push to bring Archie and Lily back to the UK about more than just visiting Buckingham Palace? Was it part of a deeper, more strategic attempt to position the UK as a legitimate home base for the children in the event of a future custody battle with Meghan? If Harry's relationship with Meghan continues to unravel, as it seems to be, this could become a major point of contention. And then there's the matter of legacy, something Harry clearly hasn't let go of. Despite his claims of wanting freedom from the monarchy, he's been unable to shake the desire to keep his children tied to the royal family. It's as if, in trying to reinvent himself in America, he's still clinging to the validation he once received from the crown. But the monarchy's response was clear. That chapter has closed, and any attempt to reinsert his children into that narrative only reignites the very questions Harry wanted to avoid. Behind the scenes, sources say the royal family is deeply concerned about the implications of allowing the children to be seen as legitimate heirs. Would it raise uncomfortable questions about their status, their inheritance, and their place in the line of succession? The palace doesn't want to risk reopening those debates, especially when the monarchy has worked so hard to keep certain details private. Harry's attempt to secure royal recognition for his children may have been more than a plea for acceptance. It was an attempt to control their future, a move that could have far-reaching consequences for both his family and the monarchy itself. The fallout from King Charles's rejection wasn't just about wounded pride. It was about a deep, lasting fracture, one that not only affected Harry's place within the royal family, but also shattered his carefully crafted image. Once seen as a figure of change, a man challenging the status quo, Harry now finds himself as a symbol of lost opportunities and fading relevance. His attempts to orchestrate a return to royal life, particularly through his children, weren't just rebuffed, they were mocked. The public's view of Harry and Meghan has shifted drastically. The fairy tale has turned bitter. The couple who once claimed to be rebels for a cause now seem more like figures trapped in a narrative they no longer control. Their media deals, once the golden ticket to a new world, are stalling. The Netflix specials, the book deals, the exclusive interviews, they've all failed to capture the public's imagination the way they once did. The monarchy's rejection of Harry only adds to this sense of unraveling. In the eyes of many, he's not the bold prince anymore. He's a man trying to claw his way back into a world that's long since moved on. And the more Harry pushes, the more his legacy seems to slip further away. The royal family, with its composed silence, has proven just how little power he truly holds. Meanwhile, social media exploded with mockery and disbelief, many siding with Charles and ridiculing the idea that Harry could waltz back into the palace after everything that's happened. This wasn't just a snub. It was the public's final verdict on the prince's descent from royal hero to forgotten figure. For Harry, this rejection wasn't just about the end of a visit. It marked the beginning of a reality he can't ignore. His fame, his influence, and his royal ties are all slipping through his fingers. His narrative is no longer one of a brave escape, but one of a man desperately trying to rewrite a story that's already been told. And in the end, the monarchy's refusal to reopen its doors may have been the most fitting way for Harry's saga to close, because for him, that door will never open again. As Harry stands outside Buckingham Palace, still processing the rejection, he's left to confront the brutal truth. The life he once knew is gone, and it's never coming back. The gates of the palace that once symbolized his royal status are now closed to him for good. He's no longer the golden boy, the charming prince who walked behind his mother's coffin. He's no longer the cheeky royal rebel with a cause. The man knocking on that door is no longer the prince he once was. He's a figure trying to regain a relevance that's fading by the day. What's even harder to accept is that this fate wasn't handed to him by the monarchy. It was self-inflicted. In 2020, Harry didn't just leave the royal family. He set it on fire as he walked away. He chose freedom, but he also chose the consequences of that freedom. He burned bridges, mocked the family, and took a public stance against everything he once represented. And now, years later, he's standing in the ashes of that decision, hoping the past can be undone. The harsh reality is that second chances don't come easy in the House of Windsor, especially when the crown feels betrayed. For Harry, it's a painful realization. The royal family is moving on, and he's been left behind. His memoirs, once filled with passionate grievances, now feel repetitive. His interviews have lost their spark. The public no longer sees him as the misunderstood prince. They see him as a man who can't stop looking backward even as he claims to be moving forward. And then there's Meghan. Her absence during Harry's trip to the UK wasn't just a matter of convenience. It was calculated. She stayed away from the spotlight, allowing Harry to take the brunt of the public scrutiny. But while Harry faces the fallout from his failed return, Meghan is waiting, watching. Some say she'll use this rejection as ammunition for her next project. Another interview, another book, or maybe even a Netflix special. The narrative she's building is already in the works, but there's a risk. The victim card has been played so often, it's starting to feel like a broken record. For Harry, though, the most painful part is that this was all his doing. He may have thought he could write his own story, but the monarchy has its own script, and Harry is no longer a part of it. He wanted redemption, but in trying to rewrite his own legacy, he's only made it more complicated. The crown has moved on, and so has the world. Harry, for all his titles and his tears, is no longer the prince he once was. The gates of Buckingham Palace are closed, and they aren't opening again.